Hello and welcome to the CASTcast. This is the podcast for the Association for Software Testing and specifically for the Conference for the Association for Software Testing, which will be happening in Nashville, Tennessee for this year of 2017. I'm Michael Larson.
And I'm Claire Moss.
And for this episode, we are happy to welcome Carol Brands. Hello, Carol.
Hey, how you doing?
We're doing great. Thanks for joining us today. To get us started, of course, we want to encourage everybody that gets on the podcast to tell us a little bit about themselves and also to lead into our main theme, which is attending CAST and making the case to attend CAST.
Well, I've been testing for about 5 years now. I'm on a very small team in an office of about 30 people and a test team of about 4 people. We've got about 10 developers. I really wanted to go to CAST because I'm interested in learning more about testing, and I'm always looking for ways to improve, and I think it's a very exciting subject. I just kind of also wanted to be around other people who were as interested in it as I was. That sounded like a really exciting prospect. I've wanted to go to a CAST for a long time, and I got to go to my first CAST, I guess, 3 years ago now.
I agree with Carol about the sense of community, of being with other testing enthusiasts who are often individual practitioners on teams or maybe managers of individual practitioners, people who are advocates for quality in their organizations. That sense of community is a big driver for my attending CAST every year.
So one of the things I think is important to note, we realize, of course, that going to a conference can be an expensive endeavor. It can frankly be challenging to make the case to be able to go to a conference. I think we all agree that we want to be able to go. It's a chance to connect. It's a chance to learn, a chance to try out new things. But when it comes down to saying to the companies that we work for, hey, I want to be able to go to a conference and like for you to help me go, it can be a struggle trying to make the case for that. And I do know that you've had some creative opportunities to be able to discuss ways of getting out to the conferences that you've attended. So that's part of the reason we're talking today. So I'd love to hear a little bit about some of the methods you have used to make it more compelling and make it so that you can attend.
It's funny you use the word creative because I don't really think of what I was doing as creative, but in a way it was, because as far as I know, no one else on my team and no one who's been a tester in the office I was had ever actually asked to go to a testing conference. I haven't heard of anyone else who's gone to a testing conference before I did, so it was really new, and in that way it was creative, but I really went about it a pretty straightforward way, which was I started by just saying, let me go Google up how to write a business case to go to a conference. Whenever they send out like conference material for CAST and for other conferences, they usually have this little snippet like how to get your boss to let you go. And at some point, the word business case stuck out to me. And that felt like it would really speak to my bosses and the people that I would have to ask. And so that's really how I started, was by just Googling how to write a business case. But that's kind of how I do everything, which is I don't know what to do. I've never seen it done before, so Google it up. I went through and read different pages and different ideas. And the way I usually do that is I kind of just set aside a bunch of tabs with all the different pages, and I kind of pick and choose the things that speak to me about how to write these business cases. And then I wrote them up and presented them. We have a team leader who's really experienced in talking to our business people in the company. So whenever I wrote a business case, I would pass it through him because I knew that he had that real talent for developing the language that would make a very strong case to the people that I would have to talk to.
It's so interesting that you found some ideas through searching. It reminds me of the way that testers use heuristics to help them open up their thinking about what to include in their testing efforts.
Getting those ideas from people who have done this a million times before really helped me feel more confident in the documents that I were building to present to my bosses.
It always helps to be able to see what are things that you can bring back from a conference, especially if there are talks that are going to be happening that are relevant to your group as it exists. If you don't see something in a conference that really speaks to a group's need right at that given point in time, it might be harder to make that business case. But if there are 2 or 3 talks that directly speak to, oh, this is something that's relevant to us right here, right now, and I think we could get some benefit for, that's definitely going to sway opinion.
Yes.
That matches my
absolutely.
experience. The first time I went to a conference, I said, here is my proposed agenda. I think these sessions are very relevant to what we're doing, and pitched that to my boss. Now, it was a little easier for me because I could stay with family and it was only going to cost me gas money and food to go. So it was perhaps an easier sell. But I don't know if that's similar to your experience, Carol.
I'm actually a little scared for this year because up until now, a big part of my business proposal has been that I am going to speak. I've only gone to CAST when I've spoken at it. Part of my business case is, of course, like Michael said, looking through and finding the things that were going to be important for my group to know, things that I could bring back. Part of it was explaining how I would bring that information back. And I've done that through things like hosting lean coffee style meetings where people choose what to talk about, and I talk and discuss with my coworkers what things I learned at the conference. I've done that by writing up simple little reports. I've done that by having meetings with teams other than the test team to share with them things that I could bring back so that I could kind of build some rapport and also build some kind of inter-team discussion that might help the whole group out. Part of those proposals is always the cost, and the cost for me has always been down by at least the conference fee because I was speaking. So this is the first year I'm going to ask to go to a conference without speaking at it, and I'm a little nervous because it's already May and I haven't done it yet. But we'll have to see what comes out of that, including the cost, including what you're going to bring back, including those specific ideas that you're going to go there to learn have been really big, important parts of the requests that I've made.
I think you bring up a good point about timeline. Often conferences, and this includes CAST, will have an early bird rate, and then there's the usual rate. So if you have a business case that you write early, you may be able to get into the conference at that lower rate. I think there might even be a pre-purchase agreement that if you are one of the people who believe in the community, you can buy a ticket early without even knowing what the content's going to be. No speakers have been announced. In fact, maybe the proposals haven't even been screened yet. So some conferences give you a little bonus for believing in them, for being an ongoing.
Definitely. And I do want to make a mention to this, so we'll do a little bit of marketing here. The early bird rate does end on June 1st. If you get your proposal and if you get your ticket before June 1st, you can get the rates for that. There are different packages that you can purchase. You have the conference and tutorial session. You have a conference, tutorial, and test retreat, which is the Saturday session that's going to be happening after the conference. You can attend the conference only, or you can attend the conference and test retreat only, or you can attend just test retreat, which is $90 in the early bird rate. So if you just want to come for the one day on a Saturday and not have anything to have to get away from work-wise, you still have to make your way to Nashville, but that's also a possibility. We, of course, want to encourage everybody to participate as much as they can and as much as their schedule will allow, but there are other options, and pricing is listed on the site. So if you go to associationforsoftwaretesting.org, conference CAST 2017, CAST 2017 packages and pricing, you'll be able to see the whole breakdown and the difference between the early bird rate and the regular conference rate. And the saving is fairly substantial. It's a difference of about $200 for the conference alone, $400 for conference and tutorial. Definitely check that out, and the sooner you can get your reservation in, the less it will cost you to go and attend.
Speaking of pricing and packaging, that has been one of the more creative aspects of the proposals I've created. The way I've done this so far, and it seems to be successful for me, I've created a series of options. Basically, I create higher tier option where I go to retreat and conference and tutorial, and I stay at the conference hotel the entire time, and I put a higher level ticket on that option. So actually taking a full airplane ride and all of the transfers and everything like that. And then I create the second tier option, which I'm totally willing to take the second tier option because going to this conference is important enough to me that I don't mind if I stay at a hotel a little further away that's a little cheaper. Take for Vancouver, I live in Oregon, and I took a Greyhound up to Vancouver. I don't mind taking the Greyhound, and it made the traveling option way cheaper. I got there for $50 instead of $150 or $200. If you can find options like that that make the deal more appealing, that can be a good way to make your case. First year that I went, since it was my first time speaking and my bosses were pretty excited about that, they went ahead and gave me the higher option, but they didn't include a tutorial. The second year I went, so that was last year, I purchased my stuff beforehand because I wasn't sure if my bosses were going to say yes or no, and it was really important to me to go to a conference. So I ended up taking a lower option for myself to make it a little easier on my budget. And so the bosses paid me back for that, but they also included the tutorial this time, which they didn't last year. So if you can present some options that make it easier for them to say yes, I think that goes a long way.
I agree with that, definitely. More times than not, your own initiative, and like you said, exactly the case that you've come in with multiple examples to say, hey, here's the top tier, here's the middle tier, here's what I'm willing to work with. The fact that you break out pricing and the fact that you've taken the time to break out that pricing shows that you're serious. It shows that you're willing to put your own capital in to make it happen. And I've done much the same with conferences over the years, and I've been pleasantly surprised where I've said, hey, I'm willing to pay the full freight for this myself, but if there's any way that you can help me with A, B, or C, I would really appreciate that. Oftentimes I've gotten the response back of, oh, well, we'll certainly cover the travel. That's not a problem. Or, oh, you're paying how much for a hotel room? Well, we can definitely cover 50% of that. As long as you've already shown that by putting your own initiative up front and even putting your own money up front, very often they will work with you and they'll say, yes, we can certainly make this happen. Or even if they won't say that this will happen, sometimes they will say, if you come back and you present this and we get a chance to use this information, then we'll put this towards something else, or they'll do something that will help defray the cost, maybe indirectly. And I don't want to get into that. That gets into weird gray areas.
But no, this is a totally different way of thinking about it. It's a reimbursement model instead of an upfront payment model. And that feels like taking on a little more risk. And there certainly is the possibility that your employer may not choose to fund your trip, but you might, as an individual, still find that to be the best way to go about the proposal because you are receiving training and that makes you more valuable and capable as an employee. This is an investment in your future, learning how to do new things that will help you to be more effective at the job. And that does pay off long term.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time on this, and I do thank you for joining. Thanks for being with us, Carol.
Well, thanks for having me.
And I want to say to everybody else, thank you for listening to the CASTcast, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.